Imagine a post-apocalyptic world where only ruins remain of civilization. But even from those remains, one can create heaven-level treasures and turn trash into true power. Here, the wastelands become the stage for survival, and ancient immortality cultivation techniques are the only way not just to live, but to continue ascending. And everything changes the moment the soul crosses the border between two worlds, erasing the difference between reality and illusion and completely breaking the logic of what is happening. And deep down, when the world is already destroyed and the rules have ceased to exist, not only a path of power begins, but a deranged ascent where either you become something greater or you disappear. This content is an original narrative recap by the channel's author, created with a style of their own structure and approach. It does not reproduce the original material literally and constitutes a transformative work. In the midst of the post-apocalyptic era, our protagonist, Lee Yun-in, finds a pleasure house. When he enters, two angels on Earth accompany him to the basement. Down there, he meets elite hunters just like him and several women in chains. Ready to play hard, our boy thought he had just found a gold mine. A woman approaches him, and with just a few words convinces him to enter a private room. Inside the room was another girl who was also going to join the fun. Lee Young felt like he had hit the jackpot. I don't recommend watching this part on TV, because while the brunette stepped away for a moment, that little flirtatious and naughty one with that look on her face says she has been very bad, and that she needs to be punished. After years dedicated exclusively to killing monsters, he was finally going to have a night of pleasure. Our protagonist gets excited, takes out a whip, and makes it fly without mercy, just to heat up the mood before facing her in bed. But suddenly, the woman's arms turned into claws, and she transformed into a monster. Now that her true form had been revealed, she screamed for help. All the pretty girls came running and started to transform as well. The spider says she's already destroyed many scavengers before, and the little bee thinks the boy can't handle the heat. I don't know about you guys, but I would still go for it with her in that form. They all attack at once, approaching him, but our protagonist has spent the whole apocalypse hunting monsters, so he just smiled, took out a talisman from his hand, and unleashed an electric discharge that, in a matter of seconds, turned those burning beasts into barbecue. Their leader couldn't believe what he had just seen. The boy wiped out the whole room, without even using his own abilities. They had a whole plan to lure people in, promising to be their dinner. But in reality, they wanted to eat the customer. They just had bad luck, because the protagonist is a scavenger. Scavengers are a guild of powerful people, with incredible abilities and physical strength, who solve all kinds of problems in the world. When the world was destroyed by nuclear bombs, it was saved by Captain Fan Zio-Yu. Everything he knows today, and thanks to his skills, he managed to get a lot of stolen items. He took the core that was inside the leader, returned home to the city of Hindu. He locked the door with a chain thick enough to tie up a huge beast, and went asleep with the cores in his hands. But every time he falls asleep, he finds himself transported to the strange realm of immortal refinement, where there are dragons, giants, skeletons, and beasts. That is his special ability, and that is how he has managed to gather so many items. A strange entity in the shape of a doll is already there, welcoming the sect master. Upon seeing this place, the protagonist remembers the first time he arrived in this world, waking up in the middle of a pile of corpses, whose vital energy had been drained. With floating buildings covered in giant spikes right in front of him, it gives him a headache, and he receives the memories of the original owner of the body, just another nobody who spent his days digging up treasures for the sect. The sect master posed as a holy man, but in reality, he treated his disciples like cattle to feed his own greed. After exhausting everyone's vital force, they were discarded as if they were trash, as if they were nothing. Our boy starts receiving more memories, but this time with an elder explaining what the Golden Age was like. When masters were gods and ruled over everything, the world was full of warriors and high-level masters. In those times, demons and humans gained XP, side by side without problems. But spiritual energy ran out, and the world turned into pure chaos and evil. To avoid the total end of the game, the leader used a forbidden skill to seal the entire base inside an energy shield, and buried the sect underground, waiting for a legendary player to revive everyone. Instead of the gods of the past, now all you have is this group of weird cultivators who pretend to follow the path of light while devouring souls, and the blood of innocence to level up. The original owner of Lee Jun-sin's body was weak and barely had the strength to fight. But before being sacrificed, he received a jade bracelet and the coordinates to the secret entrance of the sect. The mission was transmitted to Lee Junsin, along with the memories. Following the path, he returned to the corpse dump, where he had appeared for the first time in that world. In the same place, he found a dark well, and the bracelet guided him as he went down. He arrives at a quite disturbing place, and meets a giant abomination made of pure bone and hatred. But the tough guy notices something. Lee Junin comes face to face with the giant skeleton hand, and recites the mantra the elder left behind. To deactivate the security system, the boss's skull begins to glow and breaks into several pieces. The monstrous heads turn into normal skulls and begin to spin, forming a portal. Next, he enters the portal and enters the dimensions of nothingness. He turns into Nitaro from Hunter x Hunter and then comes out in a dark place. With an underground palace right in front of him, red smoke rises, transforming into the girl from before. She explained that a part of her consciousness had been sealed inside the bracelet, and that it was only released when Lee Yun-sing arrived at the temple. There, she told the full story of the original founder, a genius who created a cultivation technique that fused human power with demonic power. When monsters invaded everything, he faced the infinite army alone with just 2 moves. The first one killed almost all the demons in one go, with pure light. The second one used demons to destroy other demons. Even so, the army was infinite. With no way out, he sacrificed himself to seal the entire valley. Before leaving, he sent the jade bracelet with a message, hoping that someone would come and continue the legacy. Now that the little immortal has awakened, the protagonist officially became the new owner of the place. Now he understood that nuclear energy and spiritual energy are basically the same. The little immortal asks what is happening, but the protagonist just asks for a place to take a nap. She takes him to a resting area and swears she will protect the master. While sleeping, he closes his eyes and passes out. But when he opens them again, he is back on his couch at home. And the bracelet has come with him. The boy has become an interdimensional traveler through sleep. Wow, the boy realizes that whatever he has in his hands when he falls asleep will end up in the other world with him. He puts the theory to the test with a nuclear crystal, and the little immortal almost loses her breath upon seeing how pure the energy is. She explains that this is the missing battery to activate the cauldron of rebirth. That thing is the sect's most damaged artifact, and it's used to give a new physical life to the disciples who were only souls. Their souls had been sealed there for 1,000 years, and now our protagonist is about to have a whole army of cultivators at his disposal. The boy doesn't want to wait and orders the cauldron to be activated immediately, throwing in the entire stock of crystals. He even jokes that it's like opening a loot box, but the little immortal warns him that things are about to get crazy. Out of nowhere, the cauldron bursts into flames, and a giant fire phoenix rises from the ashes. Everything happens too fast, but our boy intercepts the attack like it's nothing. A dark figure appears in the middle of the flames, and the protagonist immediately grabs her by the neck. The pretty one is on fire, and she can't understand how the boy hasn't turned into barbecue. The chubby girl realizes right away that he is wearing the jade bracelet, and the protagonist just observes his new ally. She backs away confused because the old master had already kicked the bucket, and she wonders if the boy is the true reincarnation. She asks why she has been summoned, and the protagonist explains that the plan is to rebuild the sect and get back to the top, but she says she's not interested in boring stuff. Then the little one loses her temper and bites her on the head, so she doesn't freak out again. The girl is furious and tells everyone to go to hell, screaming that no one controls her anymore. But the protagonist has the remote control and uses the damn chain to teach the brat a lesson in reality. Upon seeing the chain, the little one asks him how he learned to use it. He realized that all the souls there were tied to his bracelet, and the little immortal is stunned by the boy's audacity. She warns him that those souls belong to demons who once ruled everything, and that the only one they feared was the master. It seems that heritage was passed down to the protagonist. The protagonist holds the spiritual leash, while the little immortal tells the cat girl to state her name and her function. She says she used to be a high-level forging spirit, but our boy says that if she's useless, they will turn her into nuclear crystal recycling. The girl panics and starts dropping all the rare loot she had hidden. Whips, talismans, and swords fly everywhere, but the little immortal tells her bluntly that that's nothing more than beggar's alms. She pretends she's about to give the poor thing a beatdown, and the cat girl begs, saying she will do whatever it takes to be useful to the sect. He accepts, but warns her that if she makes a mistake, she's out back to the present. Our boy is ready to test the sect's creation system. He asks if the nuclear crystals can be used as fuel, and the cat girl goes crazy at the purity of that improvised spiritual energy, and happy to be able to refine something again finally. The ritual begins in the midst of the flames, using the molten fire refining technique to turn the loot into power. The result is the heavenly shadow hawk talisman, and she gives our protagonist his first rare item. The protagonist thinks the object is quite ordinary, and asks immediately how to get legendary loot. And the cat girl explains to him that, for that, the mana investment has to be huge. She activates the turbo mode of the refining technique, and this time, what comes out is a mysterious seed. The little immortal recognizes the object and says that the fruit of that plant is top-notch. But the effort was so great that Firecrow simply faints. The poor thing hasn't eaten in 2 days and has spent all her mana on the creation. So our boy doesn't leave her lying on the ground and takes the new ally to rest on his lap. She will recover, but now the protagonist has one more mouth to feed. The poor thing is sleeping so deeply that not even the apocalypse alarm could wake her up. The protagonist realizes that biological matter cannot pass through the portal between worlds. But then he has a flash of inspiration and decides that the best thing is to summon more people to help him. The little immortal doesn't quite understand the logic, but who is she to question the administrator? The cauldron of rebirth starts shaking like an old mixer, and out of nowhere, 2 giant spirits start a frantic PvP combat inside. It's a dragon against a nobody, fighting for no reason at all. Our boy has no patience for chaos, and immediately throws the sealing chains to tame the 2 new Bafis. At that moment, Firecrow finally wakes up and sees that the protagonist hasn't wasted time getting into trouble. She recognizes them instantly and is shocked by what she sees. Our boy and the little immortal are completely lost, so she explains to them that they are the Dragon Sisters, the greatest beauties of the ancient sect. She says that the 2 never got along and that they were famous for being completely opposite. There they are, Kangli Luli and Kung Minxia, in chains and with a lot of attitude. The little immortal loses her patience and tells them both to stop messing around and to show respect to the new sect master, the one in blue. Decides to see if the girl is really that special and gets so close that, if it were me, I would have forgotten my own name. She slides her hand toward him and says, our boy still doesn't know anything about Taoist techniques and offers to teach him this thing called dual cultivation. If your mother walks in right now, you're screwed. But the sister in red has no intention of sharing the master. She boasts of being an elite assassin and says that she should be the official instructor. But in the end, she also blushes while offering him the same private class as before. Firecrow suggests they fight to decide who gets the master, but both tell her to get lost on the spot. The presenter has already lost patience and says that now the priority is to satisfy everyone's hunger. He shows them the legendary seed. One of them almost falls over backwards when recognizing the object. Minzo explains that this tree is strange, and that it only grows if it's planted in soil full of corpses and negative energy. Guaranteed divine fruit, but for that the protagonist needs cursed soil. The only way is to go to the sinister realm, a place that, according to the former owner's memories, is plagued by evil spirits coming for him. He tells the girls to rest, and honestly, with views like these, I wouldn't even think about going out to fight. Our boy also needs to get more crystals in the apocalyptic world, so he better take another nap. But it seems someone doesn't want him to sleep well at night. The protagonist wakes up with the captain on the hologram, who gives him the biggest scolding of his life for not answering the radio. So he rushes directly to the Scavenger Guild building to see what the problem is. The protagonist arrives at the door very worried, but when the system lets him in, the scene is a total mess, with pizza boxes scattered everywhere. He runs in, screaming, thinking she is in danger, only to find the boss rotting on the couch in the middle of the mess. Look at the state this bombshell is in. If she looked at me like that, I'd forget even that the world was ending. RG asks where that good thing she promised is, and I think we've already found it. She does that lazy stretch, as if nothing in life mattered to her, and suddenly she remembers that she had something serious to discuss. The captain says she has secured an elite job, and that she is going to let our boy take care of it so he can gain experience. It's a 2-star mission with a lot of money at stake, but she already warns him that most of the profits are hers. She speaks with grandiloquence, saying that, since he is on the best hunter team, there is no way it can fail. RG gets excited thinking about the upgrades he's going to make, and gets that thumbs up, as if to say, go get them. But when he asks her for some money to help cover expenses, her expression changes instantly, and her pocket hurts. She gives him a no way, with a face that isn't exactly one of shame, and tells him that, with his elite physique, Spending money on weapons is a total waste. Our guy knows that the big shots in the guild are making a killing, but she just sighs and says that he is still too naive. With an approach like this, it's hard to focus on the conversation, but the truth is she doesn't spend a dime in the real world, because she prefers to spend it all on a new console and game skins. A total surprise, the captain is a hopeless video game addict, and the protagonist is on his own when it comes to getting money. That's why he never rejects any of her missions, because, besides farming, he knows he owes his life to that lunatic. Our guy's past was hard. He lost his parents to starvation and had to become a street rat just to survive. He was captured by some scavengers and trained to be cannon fodder, but those guys ended up being lunch for a nuclear monster. The protagonist survived by pure miracle, perhaps because he wasn't even worth an appetizer. From then on, it was nothing more than extreme survival mode, dodging everything that tried to erase him from existence, until he ran into a horde of monsters from which no one has ever made it out alive. Just when he thought it was the end, the captain appeared and saved the day. Just because the beasts were getting in the way of her ranked match, the captain grabbed the boy by the neck like a sack of potatoes and told him to stay in a corner and watch the show, while she charged a punch that shined brighter than a video game screen. And after that, she saw that the boy was hard to kill and invited him to join the team. Back to the present, the protagonist arrives by motorcycle at the Research Institute, where Dr. Sue and the Welcome Committee were already waiting for him. Dr. Sue greets our guy with all the courtesy in the world and immediately takes him inside to close the deal in a more VIP spot. The pretty girl serving tea is an extra I wouldn't complain about, but the protagonist just wants to know the mission details. The doctor starts with that salesman's speech, saying that the place is a charitable organization that serves as a home for beastmen who have been rejected by society. He shows that these people are hunted like animals out of pure prejudice, and that his goal is to eliminate their animal genes and turn them back into humans. Everything was going well until a big problem appeared that ruined everything. A nuclear monster decided to surround the institute, and now no one can get in or out. But in the middle of the explanation, the ceiling almost collapses with a strange rumble. Dr. Sue panics because the creature is back, but our guy has already jumped out, telling everyone to hide. The guards are out there, wasting ammo for nothing, and when the protagonist sees the disaster, he almost freezes. It's a giant titan snake. The captain lied blatantly about the difficulty level of this mission. The creature's scales are armored, so the plan now is to draw its fury away from the base. He passes by a guard and borrows a grenade, but our G empties the guy's entire arsenal and leaves him stunned. He throws the gift right in that beast's face to get its attention. She takes the impact right on the snout, and our guy immediately puts the motorcycle at full speed to take her for a ride. The beast is consumed by rage and follows the protagonist to the bottom of the canyon. Grenades are flying everywhere, and the guy is practically excited to be able to spend ammo that didn't come out of his own pocket. He has already prepared the battlefield in the Chaos Canyon and tells the snake to accept this special gift combo. She ends up surrounded by explosives on all sides, and the reptile barbecue is officially served. The protagonist is already charging his next attack with the grenade's energy and lunges with a lightning slash. He cuts the snake's body from part to part, leaving a trail of electricity. But when he lands thinking he finished her off, he realizes that a strange green glow is emanating from the wound. The wound starts to close at the speed of light, and in a matter of seconds, the beast looks like nothing ever happened. Our guy is stunned by this girl's ridiculously excessive healing factor. The snake doesn't even give him time to breathe, and immediately launches a jet of poison to prove she fights dirty. The protagonist complains that the beast fights dirty because that green jet is pure acid. That substance melts everything in a matter of seconds, and our guy is devastated, seeing how his scooter gets torn to shreds. Now the beast has gone all out, and the protagonist will have to use his trump card, the Blue Shadow Hawk Talisman, with this new pair of wings. RG decides it's game over, dives like a guided missile, determined to turn this beast into a pile of elite crystal. The attack pierces the snake and leaves her full of holes. The beast screams in pain, and our guy is already saying the party is over. But suddenly, he notices something strange. Is the giant snake crying? He hesitates for a second, and when the smoke clears, the monster has turned into this snake woman. If it were me, the mission would end with an immediate surrender. He realizes it's a beast, a human being with consciousness, but duty calls, and he can't afford to hesitate. Mission accomplished. The only thing left is the beast's tail to tell the story. The girl's tail was left lying there, and Dr. Su immediately sends our guy $20,000. The protagonist suspects that such a huge beast appeared in such a quiet place, but the doctor downplays it, saying that stupid monsters get lost all the time to help him relax. The guy offers him 2 special assistants, but our guy isn't stupid and asks him if the doctor is trying to set him up with this illegal setup. The guy swears everything is out of gratitude, so our G asks him to gather all the maids of the institute at once. And the doctor runs off to prepare the party, thinking he's a real pro. Our guy gathers the whole harem to make sure the lineup is complete, and they say they are ready to serve. Our guy gathers the whole harem to make sure the lineup is complete, and they say they are ready to serve. If it were me, the video would end right here, but the protagonist says he's not itching for it, and activates another talisman, hitting the harem with an electric shock, while Dr. Su runs off to the strange experiment laboratory. The maniac has a whole arsenal of preserved biffus. He reaches the main tank and starts talking to the mutants like a loving father, but our guy is already hot on his heels, and the doctor tries to kick him off the server by yelling at him. The protagonist is already fed up with nonsense and disconnects the old man with a punch. The guy even loses his teeth, but shows he has already pressed the panic button to call for reinforcements. The doctor sends the maids after him, but the protagonist shows them he has already broken all their collars. The old man goes completely blank on the spot. Now Suwaran has become our guy's new team, and he already knows that the Institute was nothing more than a cover to kidnap girls and torture them all. He used those poor girls as guinea pigs to carry out forbidden experiments. The tables have turned, and the girls are thirsty for revenge, while the doctor tries to bring up that sad memory, swearing that back in the day, he wanted to save hybrid girls from oppression. Back in the day, the old man was a tough guy and managed things with brute force, beating up anyone who mistreated the hybrids. He saw himself as a savior and adopted a whole orphanage of beasts to try to help them. The man was a genius and was about to crack the code to turn everyone human. But then everything went to hell. One of the beasts went crazy and turned the place into a slaughterhouse. His wife died, and his daughter was left hanging by a thread to keep the girl alive. The cost was astronomical, so he sold his soul to this mafia to be able to pay the bills. The guy became a master of forbidden alchemy and started amassing dirty money by selling the poor girl's essence on the black market. The final plan consisted of fusing the genes of a beast with those of his daughters so that the girl would be reborn. But finding someone compatible was like trying to get legendary loot with a 0.1% probability. Then he found someone who was perfectly compatible. She was the missing piece, but before he could finish the process, that snake invaded the lobby. Now it makes sense why the old man was so desperate for the protagonist to complete the map. In Close or Toothless, the maniac smiles like a crazy person, because now he has a clear path to start the final experiment. The system confirms it, and the forbidden summoning ritual begins. The laboratory becomes a rave of radiation and green energy everywhere. And our guy tells the maids to save the other poor girls, because if they cut the power now, the rest of the server is lost. But then he notices something strange. The flesh starts to mix like Play-Doh, and the faces melt into each other, while the doctor celebrates the success. But the protagonist feels that this patch comes with a bug. The thing is warping. The system has suffered a critical error, and the body is rejecting everything due to that 0.1% difference. The thing is turning into a radioactive mass, and Dr. Su is going crazy because the experiment has failed miserably. The tank starts to crack, and the boss's hand goes through the glass. She is ready to shut down this laboratory, and the protagonist admits he only gave her a hard time in the previous fight, to confirm if she was actually aggressive. Seen from that angle, I understood why the protagonist wanted to hear her side of the story. The story started in the radioactive forest, where the snakes received an evolutionary upgrade, and this little one decided to explore the human map. Dr. Su was this little one's childhood hero, and she grew up seeing his face on all the billboards in the city. She wanted to return the favor, so she and her older sister decided to pay him a surprise visit. But the welcome had a surprise in store for them. They fell straight into a trap in the middle of the panic. The older sister, who was white, knocked over a shipment of forbidden potions, and the mutation was so strange that she turned into a raid boss. She woke up gigantic in the middle of the forest, and now she only returns there to try to rescue the little one without eliminating any NPCs. The protagonist throws it in his face that that supposed hero was the one who had been exploiting the little one all this time, and the old man goes into a state of shock seeing his house of cards collapse. The mutant older sister finishes destroying the laboratory in a fit of rage. Cut to the captain waking up with the face of someone who has lost her rank overnight. And the little green snake is already there, dressed as a maid, waving. Fan Zio Yu goes blank trying to understand where this boy came from. Our guy appears very calm, saying the mission went great, and he even brought an extra. In the end, the white snake's attack served to reset the doctor's experiment, and his daughter regained consciousness in the middle of the rubble, revealing that it was the humans who annihilated the family back then. At that moment, a sinister shadow with tentacles attacked the group, and the hybrids fought to the last breath to protect the little one. The old man finally realized that the monsters were the good guys, but the laboratory had run out of power, and the girls were about to fall without help. That was when our guy used his last lightning talisman to act as an improvised generator and save the team. He exhausted the legendary item, and that's why he is on the captain's sofa with a child in his arms. Fan Zio, you can't believe the reward is a mini beast. And with the captain looking like that, I couldn't focus on the report either. The protagonist focuses on the little one's hamburger, already thinking about the XP he will earn. The captain is evaluating the potential of the new skin, while the girl only cares about stuffing herself with the appetizer. The protagonist catches that look of trouble is coming when Fan Zio Yu starts laughing. She goes straight to the point. There is no room on the team for anyone who doesn't earn XP, so the little one is immediately given the position of intern. Once things are settled, our guy goes to sleep hugging that legendary crystal the boss gave him. He wakes up in the spirit lobby and is immediately startled. The fire crow appears out of nowhere, saying she needs a little dual cultivation to boost her abilities and catch her breath. Our guy freezes on the spot, wondering if the game has changed genres. The protagonist hits the huge glass table and demands results, while the beauty begins the refinement with an elite spirit flame. The process is intense, and the energy gives shape to this shadow right in front of our guy. The object recognizes the protagonist as the server owner, and the armor merges with his arm. Pure shop items shine, and look at the style. With this new look, the outfit grants an agility boost and even has a secret technique. But look at the state of the fire crow after spending all that mana. The dual cultivation left the beauty begging for mercy. The arc was impressive, but the beauty is lying on the floor saying that 5 rounds in a row is her limit. If it were me, the server would never disconnect. The protagonist tells the blacksmith to rest and decides to take the dragon sisters for the heavy lifting. Kang Li Yuli gets very excited at the chance to get out of the lobby. They arrive at the entrance of the pit, surrounded by corpses, and the beauty jumps out of the portal. Happy to breathe fresh air, or almost. Menya immediately starts complaining about the stench of the corpses, but our guy tells them both to stop being dramatic. She grabs some soil to check the quality, but the result is bad. The soil is dry and useless for the divine seed. Out of nowhere, the beauty's danger sensor activates. She drags the protagonist to hide in a hurry, because an elite monster with an unpleasant appearance has just appeared on top of the pile. The monster stretches its neck like a possessed giraffe and goes down to inspect the area. Since it doesn't find anyone, it decides to leave so as not to bother the area boss. As soon as the monster disappears, our guy reappears in the middle of the corpses, putting away the invisibility item that saved his day. He explains that that creature is hunting people for its master, which gives our protagonist an idea. And look at the size of that floating castle. That's where the cursed fertilizer they need for farming is. The plan is to infiltrate the disciples and go straight into the lion's den. Ken Li Yuli smiles for no reason, saying that the most dangerous place is the perfect safety zone for them. Tian Li Yuli has that little smile of someone who has already planned the whole plan. And the chains tighten so the act is convincing. The monster nun leaves. Thinking she has secured the day's tithe, the sisters want to accompany him. But our protagonist bluntly says that if they go with him, they will only get in the way of his stealth mission. He advances down the hallway, and the place is more infested with hidden microphones than a server on update day. The target is right in front, but suddenly his feline instinct screams immediately. Look at the size of that horde. If that's not the area boss, then I'm a tutorial NPC. The monster is sniffing the air, confused because it caught a human scent. But it hasn't seen a shadow. Our guy takes the opportunity to sneak away in cat form. Before his invisibility mana runs out, he arrives at a strange place where some old zombies are ordering people to ascend to the next level. Except that the door is a hole in a wall of flesh, with 1,000 hands trying to drag you into the abyss. The protagonist immediately realizes that this whole immortality story is pure bait to lure newbies to the slaughterhouse. That thing is a giant sacrifice, oven made of souls and chains. Finally, he finds the cursed fertilizer he had come looking for. The cat starts to pick up the object, but feels a spiritual fire that burns and freezes at the same time. Out of nowhere, the creature loses its balance and starts to float against its will. The oven is pulling his soul inside, and our guy panics completely. Things have gotten ugly for the kitty. His feline mana runs out at the worst possible moment, and our guy returns to his original body. He is in shock. The suction of this tower is ridiculously powerful, and if he doesn't act now, he will become fuel for the furnace. But in the middle of the chaos, the protagonist sees a different glow. A ghost girl appears out of nowhere and asks him if he can see her. Our guy freezes. How is it possible for a soul to be there without having been refined? She tells him to stay still, because the area boss detects any movement. She reveals that she is the spirit of the furnace, and immediately offers our protagonist a deal. Apparently, she wants to defect, and our guy is her way out. The girl introduces herself as Cao Jing, and says that she used to be the rarest object of a sect that turned monsters into XP pills. That thing granted absurd boosters and even divine abilities. But her glory days are over, and she fell into the hands of a high-ranking villain. That supposed ancestor sealed the poor girl with a divine needle to produce evil pills. She is sick of this life as a spiritual slave, and promises to become our guy's official support if he frees her. The protagonist is paralyzed by the offer. He realizes that the giant pillar that almost swallowed him is actually the needle stuck in the cat girl's chest. The cat girl explains that that colossal pillar is the needle keeping her immobilized, and our guy immediately panics, saying that he isn't there to take advantage of her appearance. He just doesn't know how to help her. The seal on his belt glows and grabs Sao Hin, so she won't be sucked back into the center of the furnace. Our guy goes into serious mode and summons a shadowy mechanical arm to lend a hand. He conjures a giant legendary sword directly from his inventory, and it falls with force, breaking the evil chains. His eyes fix on the loot. To finish the job, the protagonist takes out the whip of truth and starts throwing the lasso at the pillar to rip that giant thorn from her arm. Our protagonist is at his limit, and Xiao Xin starts to worry. But then he takes out that booster pill refined by the Fire Crow. Using a rare item hurts, but getting a support Beifu that generates infinite loot makes the investment worth it. He activates the item, and the beast goes into total berserker mode. His brute strength multiplies by 100. His body gets so hot that even the cat girl gets scared, while he rips out the pillar and shatters the seal with a tug worthy of a top-tier fighter. With a scream that makes the whole server shake, Xiao Hin is finally freed from the chains and immediately jumps onto our guy's neck, swearing eternal loyalty to him. What a leap in quality. Our guy has grabbed the main loot, the furnace that turns demons into XP pills. His inventory is full, but now the problem is getting out of this map alive, out of nowhere. The nightmare creature with an elite face appears behind him, asking who the thief is. It's a strange cultivator that looks like a sketch of hell with a giraffe neck. The protagonist freezes, because the noise of the fight has woken up someone who definitely shouldn't have been woken up. These creatures are high-ranking and harvest human bone essence to level up. The monster recognizes our protagonist from somewhere. She opens that huge mouth and demands to know how a noob like him managed to remove the needle's seal. The protagonist goes into smooth talker mode and pretends he will give her a treasure if she spares his life. The monster takes the bait and approaches to inspect the item, while our guy waits for the right moment. The protagonist takes advantage of the monster's opportunity and charges a punch with the full benefit of the pills to fire a beam of light that crosses the map and wipes out her HP bar. The monster falls to the ground. Our guy sees a glow coming from its body and immediately runs to see if the loot is legendary. And Cao Hing explains to him that it is the golden marrow bone where XP is stored. The boy is stunned by the loot, but has no idea how to use such a high-ranking item. So the ghost kitty takes the bone immediately, and the protagonist simply accepts that the loot belongs to her. Now the effect of the boost fades, but the mission is a total success. With the fertilizer secured and an extra item in the bag, he turns back into cat form to sneak away silently and reunite with the rest of the team. The only thing left are the remains of the monster on the ground, and she dies without understanding how a noob defeated her solo. The monster's soul transformed into a strange fly that swore revenge, as it flies off in search of a new body. In the lobby, the Dragon Sisters are very bored waiting for our guy to return from farming. Minja realizes that the creature is approaching, and immediately prepares to crush the intruder. but the creature dodges it and decides that Li Yuli's body will be its new skin. The fly lands on the kitty's cheek, and her sister doesn't miss the chance to hit her as hard as she can. Right in the face, Li Yuli wakes up with a mark on her face, thinking there has been an earthquake. Minja freezes, thinking that the master has gotten into big trouble, and that the fight has already started, but Li Yuli immediately gives it away. She is acting strange and hiding the fall of the fly. The creature is back there screaming in terror. They feel a powerful boss aura approaching, and this giant, strange Buddha bursts through the ceiling, inviting them both to his room. Li Yuli decides to be nice to buy time and betray the fat guy later, and the creature gets excited, thinking it has hit the jackpot. But Minxia has no patience for theatrics and immediately kicks the freak in the face with an elite combo. Her sister is stunned by the lack of strategy, but the redhead only cares about finishing off the boss. Li Yuli accepts that her cultivation is trash and decides to trust the store items the protagonist gave them. Minza immediately takes out a grenade, thinking it's a healing item, and is hypnotized by the immortality pills that shine brighter than a legendary skin. Her sister lets her keep the explosives while she focuses on the bow and the arrows. The redhead is absolutely delighted with her new toy, but the fat guy definitely didn't like getting kicked, and his eyes are already shining with hatred. The creature enters phase 2 and arms sprout everywhere, looking like a raid boss with a bug. They both realize that things have gotten serious when the monster opens a crater where its mouth should be, ready to swallow the whole server. Minxia tells Li Yuli to get out and find the protagonist while she takes care of keeping the boss's attention. Li Yuli gets emotional and warns that her sister cannot die. Before taking revenge for that slap, Minxia knows she can't tank the boss head-on, so she decides to swallow the spirit grenade in one gulp. And of course, the thing explodes. The girl is reduced to dust, while the giant creature lunges at her with its mouth wide open. The dragon is finished, while chaos is unleashed. Leyen runs to find the protagonist and bring reinforcements, and when she feels her sister's aura disappear, she finally relaxes, since she didn't become the best assassin in the sect for nothing. We see the redhead's consciousness, and the insect monster's spirit seems to be laughing, thinking that the tables have turned. The creature wants to take advantage of the fact that she is asleep to devour everything and steal her body. But the plan fails when it feels pressure coming from behind, and a dark version of Minxia appears, holding the insect like it's trash. This new consciousness sadistically enjoys crushing ants, and is looking forward to taking full control of the avatar. She immediately goes after the original to complete the takeover. The mental takeover enters its final phase, and the two consciousnesses collide head-on. The original Minxia is trapped in a sea of hands, completely stunned. She lets out the kind of scream of someone whom the system is formatting. Meanwhile, in the real world, the boss starts to feel sick. Zavi thought he had eaten the girl for dinner, but the digestion is about to hit him hard. Out of nowhere, a fist goes through his chest. From the inside out, the creature starts to explode into arms that look like a strange texture glitch. And the one that shoots out of its body is Minxia in dark mode. With a purple aura, she wears that little smile of someone who just inherited a max-level account. The only thing left on the ground, as a testimony to what happened, are the remains of the boss's hand. Minxia is bewildered by that strange loot that the boss left behind. She mercilessly steps on the hand with the eye, because there's no room here for cursed loot. Now she wants to find out where the hell the server dumped them. Meanwhile, the hand fragment starts to slide across the floor, as if it had a life of its own. The thing tries to run away and hide in a dark corner, but look who appears. The spirit explains that it is the base of a certain Beizu, an object that shouldn't be lying around. Meanwhile, Li Yuli is lost in an endless maze. She runs and runs, but the hallway seems infinite. And from this angle, we can see that her leg routine is paying off. Li Yuli realizes that she has fallen into a trap, and now the situation has become very tense. In the middle of the hallway, a guy appears, meditating as if he were the server owner. Li Yuli immediately goes on alert, not knowing if he's a ghost or just an elite monster. She doesn't want to waste time talking, and immediately pulled the bowstring to land the first blow. The shot goes off with all its strength. Lighting up the whole hallway, the arrow pierces the guy's head. But the damage doesn't even register. The freak doesn't even blink and warns her that she is asking to be wiped off the map. Out of nowhere, his body stretches like an animation bug, and he appears right in front of her. Asking her if she likes illusions, the blow hits her full-on right in the center of the chest. And our girl goes flying, spitting blood and feeling the full weight of the combo. The boss wants to know what she is doing on his map, but Lee Julie responds with pure mockery. Even though she is completely battered, he doesn't even flinch. The creature gave up being human and turned into a nightmare. That has our girl. He, trapped in a grip with no chance to dodge it. She even looks like the boss of a horror game. The old man's spirit warns that she is no longer of any use alive, and begins the absorption process towards him. Being devoured by him is the best possible ending, if the protagonist doesn't appear. Now she is going to become food for the monsters. Lee Julie is being devoured by this pile of meat, and it looks like game over. But then the scene crumbles, and the old man realizes that he was the one who fell into the trap. Our girl Guy appears completely unharmed, with a hitbox that the protagonist would approve of, and says that his technique is nothing more than a bad copy of hers. The creature boasts about being the master of illusions, and tries to recruit her for his guild. She ignores the words of a dead man, and he immediately launches his special attack to settle the matter. The boss goes all out with that strange body full of arms, but Lee just closes her eyes and starts casting her special, changing her clothes like a fairy. She manifests the soul-devouring celestial demon, and her look is pure blue fire. The old man panics, because he thought the dragon clan had already been wiped off the map. There's no time for a flashback. She is already charging the next blow. The impact is so strong that the screen turns into nothing but silhouettes. The creature keeps trying to act like a know-it-all, saying that she already used that move. And it didn't work. What he doesn't know is that the debuff has already taken effect. The boss's head explodes in a burst of dark energy, and our girl Guy is left there floating, proving that account level can't beat legendary skill. Lee Julie explains that dragon blood is the perfect antidote to any illusion, and that the boss was doomed from the moment he got stained with it. The creature's body splits in two and reveals its mission item, a severed lizard tail. No wonder the guy was so arrogant. His whole base was pure meme. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a sinister red, and Ninja starts hearing voices as if someone were casting a spell in his ear. It's a strong mental debuff. He can't handle the headache in the middle of the short circuits. Our guy arrives just in time and catches the redhead before she falls, while the boss's eye remains there, immobilized, simply watching as everything unfolds. He remains thoughtful, trying to understand what that sound was and where Liuli ended up. The little immortal appears before the protagonist with an urgent warning. Ancestor, Button is waking up from its hibernation after accumulating a ton of blood essence. And the creature is pure nightmare. Our guy gets tense because he knows he can't handle this boss right now. But the little one says she has a plan and that she will need his help for the final co-op. She turns red as a tomato while explaining the method. And if that is really the plan, our guy has hit the jackpot. The protagonist almost falls over backwards when he hears that the plan is dual cultivation. In the middle of all this chaos, she doesn't even wait for an answer and dives straight into his mind to start the process. Suddenly, reality crumbles, and our guy ends up in a mental space that looks like the lobby of a luxury hotel. She explains to him that this is the only place where they can perform this upgrade, since she is still just an artifact spirit. In the mental space, all their mission items are on display, and the little one has already manifested the golden lotus that she created herself to serve as a base. The protagonist meditates. Energy begins to refine his body, transforming his blood into pure power. It's time for the big breakthrough. Our guy feels his energy centers shining brighter than a Christmas tree. His dual spiritual cultivation is in full sync, and since he is on the astral plane, clothing is optional. Drain it all. The little one confesses that she stole all this XP from the ancestor himself, while she was preparing pills for him. Now she transfers that forbidden farm to our guy, so he can finally defeat the boss solo. The little one warns him that the first time hurts a little, but that he has to endure the process. The light becomes so intense that it blinds the server, and the final upgrade finally takes place. Back to reality, the protagonist's body floats on autopilot, while the rest of the boss tries to sneak away. The creature is just an eye and a disgusting hand. Lee Julie approaches to check the loot, and the artist took full advantage of the angle. She wonders if the protagonist fainted because of the boss, while the hand takes the opportunity to flee, and ends up right in front of the redhead. It got the reverse of one, while the sisters try to understand what happened. Our guy is in dreamland, dreaming about the cultivation that just happened. The sky begins to cry blood in the form of runes, and any sense of peace goes right down the drain. Ming Zio looks up and immediately senses that the next monster is world level. Out of nowhere, a deafening sound starts frying the redhead's brain, and our blue-haired girls too. From the shadows emerges an astral projection, so gigantic that the creature wants to know what rat dared to interrupt its meditation. Li Yuli knows the protagonist is still out of commission and wonders if her remaining mana and her sisters will be enough to hold aggro. She decides that retreat is not an option. The sisters gather what little energy they have left in a flame combo to try and keep from being finished off in one hit. And they hit the monster right in the center. But soon the wound heals, yet the astral hand falls like a meteorite. The boss says there is no way out and that he is going to grind them both to dust. The impact draws near to deal the final blow. Li Yuli has already accepted that it's game over and even jokes about settling scores in the next life. But then our guy appears with his new buff activated. He throws an uppercut that breaks the entire force of the attack, and the boss's hands simply cannot handle the damage from our heat. The ancestor keeps trying to act cocky, calling the protagonist an ant and throwing a punch at him. The impact was brutal, but he wasn't there, so the boss starts looking for him, saying he won't get away. Mingxia is in shock at the protagonist's new aura, and Lai Yuli cannot understand how he reached core formation so fast. Our guy says it's a long story, and warns that everyone must return to the hideout before the map resets. The protagonist says they have to plug that hole with a body, but Lai Yuli warns that that alone won't solve the problem, and that they need a seal. She immediately switches to a support configuration and begins casting an illusion skill, causing the corpses on the ground to be pulled toward the hole's entrance, until the passage is completely blocked by a pile of bones. Back at the base, our guy notices strange movement and freezes. There is a tiny blue creature being bullied by crows, and the poor thing screams in terror while trying to dodge the bird's attacks, until someone tells them all to stop messing around. The fire crow is startled to see that our guy is back, and the little immortal immediately blurts out that the blacksmith was stealing crystals to open a forbidden room. RG tries to find out what is so special about that place, and the little one explains that inside XP gains triple. He tries to corner the fire crow to find out how he discovered the secret, but the redhead only gives unconvincing excuses. The protagonist decides to ignore the theft for now, because what's important is something else. He gives the rest of the loot to the little immortal to strengthen the sect, and tells the blacksmith to focus on crafting elite items every day, while the dragons take care of the divine seed. The survival plan keeps moving at full speed, and our guy enters the pavilion to start the real grind. The pavilion is strange, it's full of cosmic energy everywhere, and our guy commits fully to reach the golden core. As soon as possible, he takes a deep breath, but then the atmosphere changes, and we see a sinister boss scolding the disciple who has failed, saying that the mistake was grave, but that there is still a way to repair the damage. He summons a strange centipede larva and explains that this centipede of calamity will serve to reset the boy's body. The creature starts fusing with the man's flesh in a truly disgusting way, and the result is a totally deformed avatar, covered in eyes all over its body. The boss says time is running out, and their mission now is to hunt down our protagonist. Meanwhile, this scavenger flies like a rocket, acting like he's the owner of the sky because he spent a fortune on a second-hand jetpack. But our guy appears right behind him, surfing on a flying sword, and the guy almost goes into shock. He tries to accelerate to the max, but the protagonist is on another level. Now that his cultivation has perfectly synchronized with his body, they arrive at the scavenger's tavern, and the jetpack guy lands in a rush to be the first one there. He enters swearing that he is still the fastest. Inside, waitresses approach dressed as cowgirls to see if our boss will spend his loot on them. The warning is clear. Commoners stay on the ground floor, and only VIP members go upstairs. The jetpack guy is there, snorting pure copium, dreaming of the day he reaches the rank where he can show off. Our guy, on the other hand, wants nothing to do with luxuries and just orders a dark beer and a good menu from the waiter. The waiter is Juan, a guy who can even make drinks fly with style, and he already recognizes RG. He says the protagonist's potential is being wasted there and praises the boy for having soloed 5 beasts and having completed a 2-star mission way above his level. Our guy is humble and says he is just some random guy of guy rank who is starving to death. The redhead with the jetpack hears that and almost chokes, realizing that the protagonist is a top-tier smurf. Juan laughs and reminds him that the last reward was 5,000 sand dollars. But the protagonist points out that the captain takes 70% and now wants a 3-star mission. The protagonist knows that money is the least of his worries right now, and that he needs giant crystals to power the biffus and prepare for the boss that is coming. The waiter believes the captain is a mercenary, but warns him that someone of rank cannot solo a level 3 mission. And the redhead even pales hearing the name of the S-rank captain. He immediately flashes a huge smile, as if he had found the perfect partner, and introduces himself as Liu Leshen to try to close the deal. The guy is part of the #1 clan, a guild with almost 200 members. And our guy accepts the invitation even while trying to maintain his humble background persona. The flying boy is totally excited, thinking the two of them are going to complete the entire map, but Juan warns them that for this mission the lobby requires a group of 3. The moment the two look back, Linge appears, a C-rank player who looks like she came straight out of an adorable little girl. The flyer melts immediately and accepts her into the group without a second thought. With the team complete, the protagonist asks Whack to send him the most difficult mission. He wants hard mode, with tons of enemies and bosses to farm XP. The waiter practically calls him crazy for being just like the captain. He shows them a contract to find some children who disappeared in a strange forest, and warns them that the place has a reputation for being haunted by ghosts and monsters. Our guy accepts the contract at the top of his lungs. Hick Lavi ready and mission accepted, even with the redhead scared to death of the supernatural. The redhead is worried about whether the pretty girl will be able to handle the danger, but the waiter warns them that time is running out to save the children. He shows them the map with the most dangerous routes in the desert. The safe path takes 10 hours, which would mean the end of the mission, but Lin Jiu adopts that pose as if he had a hidden shop item. He takes a shiny shrimp out of his inventory and starts calling Zio Lan like a little dog. Suddenly, the server lights up and a portal opens in the sky. A giant star whale appears to serve as transport for the team. The guys are jaw-dropped to see that the rookie has the fastest mount in the game. The redhead already thinks she's a legendary pro for having such an expensive pet, and Lin Yi turns red as a tomato, saying the creature is just a friend. While the jetpack man struggles, our guy takes the girl on his sword. Once they are on top of the creature, the stability is cruising. She explains that Zyralan is slow, but knows how to use the map's shortcuts. The creature starts running at full speed and opens a spatial rift in the middle of the clouds. The landscape turns into a chaos of spatial distortion. Our G perceives a trail of evil energy coming from the nearby void forest. New map unlocked. Our guy and the trio finally land. The atmosphere here is incredibly oppressive. The rookie is already trembling with fear, remembering some horror stories about this map. She says this used to be the Forest of Miracles, where humans lived in peace in a village. They shared the lobby with the beastmen in peace, but one night everything changed, and they all ended up dead as stones. The scavengers exterminated the beastmen thinking they were the culprits, but a little girl saw a red ghost watching everything from afar. The redhead is totally skeptical, thinking that ghosts don't exist, but the rookie speaks clearly. The story comes from a reliable source. She mentions Wan Jing, a psychic captain with top-tier resources and a reputation for being fierce. The guy's jaw almost drops hearing the name of the medium, and Lin Yue corrects him quickly, saying that the woman is a highly respected seer. Out of nowhere, they see the figure of a student moving through the brush. Our guy immediately draws his weapon and tells the squad to chase the kid. The trail leads directly to an abandoned building in the middle of the darkness. It's a school building that shouldn't be there at all, and at the top, there are a pair of eyes staring fixedly at our protagonist. Our guy tells the squad to go in quickly and check what's going on, but as soon as they enter, the door slams shut. Everyone is startled. Outside, strange vines start to sprout from the ground, and within seconds, the entire building is isolated by that sinister vegetation. The protagonist uses his watch's light to try to see in the dark, but realizes that the team has disappeared and that the bracelets have no signal at all. Small giggles start to resonate through the hallway. He asks who is there and finds himself face to face with immobile silhouettes. They are nothing more than stacked mannequins, which is 1,000 times creepier. Our guy goes on high alert because he heard a strange noise. He decides it's better not to lower his guard without noticing the giant shadow he has right behind him. Just when his spider sense activates, she grabs his arm, a crying girl, who begs him to take her home. The protagonist finds it strange because the radar detects no threat nearby, no enemy signal. He tries to calm the girl and asks her how she ended up on this map. She says she was in class when a ghost appeared, and everyone started running. Our protagonist asks her about the others, and she replies that the boss took them all. The protagonist tries to process what the girl said about the ghost, while Liu Xiaobei and Luthian are lost in a dark hallway, shouting in search of the team. Suddenly, he hears a strange chant that wasn't in the script, and decides to enter a room to see if the sound is coming from the boss, or from some NPC. He sees little hands joined together in an atmosphere worthy of a horror movie. And the lobby becomes sinister with those children singing in the darkness, lying on the floor. He sees Lin Yue unconscious and surrounded by those deranged children. The redhead goes crazy to save his ally. The children reveal monster faces with macabre smiles, and he launches a strong slash to see if he can finish off the ghosts once and for all. As soon as he finishes them all off, he realizes they were just cursed straw dolls. Our guy runs to help the thin Yue, who finally wakes up. She wakes up a bit disoriented, calling for Tian, not understanding how she ended up in this strange place. The redhead explains that he ran into the ghost and takes the opportunity to play the hero. The rookie accepts the protection buff immediately with a hug, leaving our Jai completely paralyzed while a strange giggle resonates in the background. The girl's face turns into a nightmare, and black tentacles begin to drain the redhead's HP points. Poor thing, everything turns into a tangle of roots. While the scene changes to another hallway, the real Lin Yi wanders alone and tries to talk to the captain without success. Out of nowhere, footsteps are heard. Li Junin appears, saying he found her, but the girl is bewildered, because now there are two of him on the screen. The two start arguing, and out of nowhere, he receives a right hook, which goes through his face as if the crazy guy were made of smoke. Our guy tries to act as a bodyguard and tells the girl to stay behind him. But then a gigantic clone appears behind them, saying he is the authentic one. The girl realizes and decides that she has had enough of this nonsense, switching to combat mode because she has realized that everything is fake. She can read the monsters' minds, but their communication is pure code. And the creatures continue with that creepy illusion that each one of them is the real protagonist. She even remembers when she used to scold her pig for having to go on a diet and not turn into bacon. She explains that she has been able to read the minds of nuclear monsters since she was a little girl. But these strange clones of the protagonist do not follow the rules. Seeing that things have turned ugly, she calls Xiao Liu, and the giant boar bursts into the room at snack time. The beast doesn't want to talk and starts destroying the shadows on the wall without a hint of mercy. Pure suppressed rage, the clones Huan, and the girl is stunned by how easy it was. After that, another girl appears, breaking through, and guides our guy directly to where the mystery hides. When they reach the crux of the matter, the atmosphere is too tense. The girl starts crying and begs our guy to save everyone. But the protagonist has already figured everything out and interrupts her without hesitation. He realizes that the girl doesn't have the slightest hint of a soul, so the whole plan was simply to lure him into this trap. Our guy enters the lair with his glowing aura and sees that the children are trapped in cocoons. Among them, a familiar face. But the owner of the house doesn't like visitors, and the roots intertwine to create a colossal monster that makes the protagonist look like a toy in comparison. The creature tries to crush him, but our guy's reflexes are impeccable, and he immediately launches an aura slash to break through. He starts cutting the cocoons from the ceiling, and the redhead falls to the floor completely disoriented while the protagonist faces the mountain of roots, warns them that they are inside the creature's stomach, and tells the boy to save the others. The guy almost has a heart attack thinking he's seen a ghost, and he is stunned by the power level of our protagonist. But there isn't even time to catch his breath because the creature can read minds and copy any trauma they have. The creature doesn't just copy what it sees. It delves into the traumas of people's minds. But Lin Jie reappears with his boar to balance the fight. The beast enters at full speed, trampling the roots with all its strength, and the redhead has no idea what to think of this mutant pig that seems hard as a rock. The girl is having a great time riding the beast, acting as if she were taking a walk in the park. Outside, the real puppeteer watches how the building is devoured and says that the nutrients have finally arrived. This galaxy-faced villain puts his ultimate plan into motion, causing the entire building to start shrinking and crushing everyone inside. Not even our guy's avatar escapes being suffocated by that mountain of roots. The lunatic explains that he has spent 100 years cultivating this strange nuclear tree, waiting for it to sprout so he could finally harvest the fruits. The tree looks like a giant bulb in the middle of the forest, and he has already set his eye on the fruit, which looks more like a mutant brain. He is very excited, saying the tree only needs a day to bear fruit, and that even if it dies afterwards, the dozens of fruits make the effort worth it. But suddenly, the glimmer in the villain's eyes fades, because the fruits start to wither right in front of him. They turn dry and gray in a matter of seconds. The guy starts to freak out, trying to figure out who is stealing his energy. Suddenly, the ground explodes and sends everything flying into the air. and our guy appears with the boar to rescue the people who were trapped. The villain is in shock, unable to understand how a mere rank has slipped through his fingers. The lunatic tries to counterattack with that galactic energy, but the protagonist looks at the sky and realizes that things go far beyond that. A colossal hand comes out of a portal and tries to crush the boar. Our guy throws the rope and tells the beast to take the children far away from there without looking back. He charges at the villain, who now has a kind of space tentacles, and starts to clear his way through all this chaos to finish the job. Our guy unleashes a beating with blue energy and pierces the villain's chest. The guy doesn't even blink and says that even a rank would have trouble hurting him. He likes our guy's talent and decides to return the favor. He throws a punch the size of a building, and the protagonist tries to hold the world in his hands. What a blow! Our guy falls to the ground completely shattered, realizing that this enemy is practically immortal. The boy is lost and knows that reinforcements will take an eternity to arrive. Luckily, he still has a trump card up his sleeve and activates a super powerful talisman, which starts to consume his body to change everything from within. He becomes practically a demigod with an aura that inspires respect. The villain even gets excited about the change and decides that now the game gets serious, throwing another space punch to test our guy's new form. Our guy is now on another level and flies straight toward the villain. The lunatic doesn't even see where the blow comes from. That's how fast the protagonist is, and he realizes that this new sword ignores any defense. The villain tries to recover, but the pressure is insane. The two clash head-on, and the impact creates a huge shockwave, speed in its purest form, and our guy goes through the guy as if he were made of paper, leaving the villain stunned because his metallic defense has gone down the drain. But the protagonist knows he is running out of time and needs to finish the job quickly. The guy is left in shreds on the ground, and our guy lands with style. But the monster is basically like living mercury and admits he didn't expect this improvement from the protagonist. RG realizes that this thing is too powerful, so the only option is to disintegrate it completely. The villain goes all out and starts generating an army of clones to balance the fight. Our guy decides that he can play that game too and makes a gesture to summon a terrifying golden cavalry to flip the table. It's the attack of 1,000 armies and ruthlessly mows down the villain's clones. The freak starts to panic seeing that the protagonist also has summoning tricks, and there is nowhere left to run. The blow impacts the original directly, but RG's energy bar hits 0 at that exact moment. He returns to normal thinking he has finally cleared the area. But that blue light on the ground is a warning that the boss still has a second phase. Our guy plummets into the void and ends up directly in a grotesque junkyard full of corpses. Down there, a crazy long-necked woman is hunting intruders, complaining that the quest is boring. The villain is the very definition of a red flag, but her figure makes it clear that the author put in a lot of effort. She is accompanied by a giant centipede covered in strange eyes, and out of nowhere, an old man with red eyes appears, saying he has sensed the smell of a woman nearby. The whole band of monsters is gathered when a shadow crosses the scene and rips the old man's head off in one go. The female villains are completely stunned by the ambush, and the old man's head ends up as floor decoration. A master appears with an overwhelming presence, along with her pet, High-and-See, which has the unmistakable look of someone completely unhinged. She cuts down the space villain who kidnapped our guy and took him to an astral plane. Complaining that the protagonist has ruined her harvest, she decides to do a mental scan on our Jai, resting a hand on his head to read his entire history. The villain thinks he is just an ordinary orphan with nothing special, but stumbles upon something in the boy's mind that plunges him into panic. The villain realizes that the boy's memories don't belong to this world, and he sees a true nightmare of gods and towers of corpses. In the midst of it all, a golden entity appears with power of a completely different level. The freak gets drunk on euphoria at the discovery, turns his arm into a sinister sword, and starts debating whether to erase the protagonist or keep the boy as a rare specimen. But out of nowhere, space itself begins to crack, and a fierce woman with pink hair appears, ordering the villain to hand over our guy immediately. The freak can't believe his barrier was destroyed just by the power of her voice, and the girl makes it clear that she has finally found her target. She enters immediately with a flying kick. Throwing a punch that must have hurt to his very soul, the monster flies off into the air and crashes hard into the ground, losing control of the hostage. Our guy falls in free fall, completely unconscious, but the pink-haired girl appears to save the day. She catches the protagonist in her arms, and honestly, He's lucky to be carried by a top-tier waifu like this. The boy finally wakes up, but is already frustrated because he couldn't finish off the monster. The captain is completely surprised when he mentions that the guy is immortal. The space villain is there, recomposing himself as if he were made of mercury, and the strange tree has borne a fruit that looks like a giant brain. The captain doesn't want to hear anything more, and immediately starts beating that evil being, causing everything to collapse. Out of nowhere, Lin Yu and the giant boar appear to reinforce the team, and she says that the survivors are now safe. The redhead is amazed at the size of the fruit, and the protagonist explains that the plant is kidnapping people to produce this anomaly. The captain decides the best solution is to destroy the fruit with her fists. The thing starts beating in a strange way, leaving everyone completely baffled. Above, a portal opens in the middle of the chaos and starts teleporting the fruits. They end up in a completely desolate place, where the space villain is waiting for the shipment. The guy admits that he was almost eliminated in that last fight, but his peace doesn't last long, because the boss appears with a threatening air, demanding the results of the harvest. He explains that he only got 7 because our guy, and the captain gave him too much trouble. The boss and Jing accepts what remains of the harvest and immediately starts inspecting the merchandise to check if the energy is high quality. She gives the classic villain speech, saying that soon she will free everyone from that sealed land. Cut to the Scavengers Guild headquarters, where the situation is getting serious. A summit is being held with the toughest hunters in the area. President Ming Yu, who looks like a child but has SS rank, opens the meeting. But Hughes, who is arrogance in its purest form, says he is too busy saving the world. Uncle Long calls him out immediately, saying he should probably be on a date instead of that. The guy doesn't even try to hide it and says that's how he recharges his batteries. The horned cat girl has no idea, while the captain is there drooling in the middle of the meeting, and the president decides to leave her alone to continue with the agenda. The boy gets straight to the point. The villain Annan is about to break the seal and launch with all her might. The atmosphere gets tense for everyone, and the guy in armor already slams his fist on the table saying he's ready for war. Huge keeps thinking, who is this guy? But the masked mercenary shuts him up, warning him that the villain could wipe out the whole room all by herself while laughing. Everyone starts thinking that game over is guaranteed, and the boy confirms it. The odds are not 0, but things are going to get ugly. The president continues to monitor our guy's progress from a distance and believes that the boy is the only real chance of victory. The group takes the fruit to the Scavengers' underground lab, and our guy appears immediately wanting to know what the hell that fruit is. Dr. Wu goes into total geek mode and explains that that thing even has a consciousness of its own. Lin Yi stands there, hypnotized by the size of the fruit inside the tank. Our guy is more lost than ever, so the doctor explains it to him and tells him it is a nuclear tree. Basically, it's a plant that has evolved into an elite beast. It all starts with a seed that infects the earth, and then spends hundreds of years absorbing the life of an entire forest to grow. All that accumulated energy ends up concentrating in the brain of this plant. Our guy starts to suspect the sudden wisdom of Li Junzin, and she goes into a trance, realizing that those memories came from her father. Suddenly, the thing starts to vibrate, and the doctor realizes that the fruit is about to be born. Cut to the snake woman, who is relaxing on a mountain of corpses, while this exorcist tries to deal with the situation, and what a blessed plot she has. By the way, she sends a living dead to perform a soul-cutting attack, which pierces the villain. But the bitch doesn't even notice it and keeps mocking the attack. The villain doesn't even move and lets her zombie finish off that poor boy in one blow. The green-haired girl is in shock watching her ally being sent to the lobby without even seeing what hit him. The exorcist makes it clear immediately that this is not just any living dead. She explains that there is a whole classification system ranging from the white zombie to the flying zombie. But Zyro Giant is at the top of the food chain. It's the legendary king of zombies. The poor girl realizes she has joined the wrong server and tries to flee, but ends up being quartered halfway there. Game over for her. And our exorcist takes the opportunity to pick up the rare loot that has dropped. The exorcist realizes that the zombie king is still growling, and the reason is this giant centipede that has decided to show up for dinner. But the really interesting stuff is happening elsewhere. Our pink-haired captain is being completely destroyed 3-0 in a video game by a kid while the two play. The protagonist has to play janitor and clean up the mess. The captain, who apparently invested all her points in the plot, says the little guy's duty is to play with her. The boy gets so pissed he breaks the broom. in half, complaining that the loot from the last mission was garbage. He needs core crystals as soon as possible if he wants to evolve. And the girl drops the bombshell that she knows the perfect place to get those items. Our guy can't believe his luck and heads straight for the so-called Canyon of Chaos. The boy descends like a rocket, concentrating on dodging the snakes to reach the labyrinth. He uses some spirit clones to explore the path, and finally finds the crystal paradise. It's infinite loot. He starts filling his inventory like a madman. But out of nowhere, a giant magic circle lights up in front of him, and a mysterious little witch appears to ruin the boy's farming session. The girl appears, looking like an anime witch, and our guy recognizes the beast. Smalling, an A-rank elite of the scavengers. He doesn't understand what she's doing in the middle of nowhere, but the girl seems to have come to handle the situation. But in the fight against the centipede, things are getting intense, and the zombie king launches an attack that turns it into shredded paper. With pieces of monster flying everywhere, pure blood, the giant creature is a nightmare of 1,000 hungry hands. The exorcist realizes that her ally is at the limit and bites her finger to concentrate her energy. Next, she activates the celestial eye to scan the creature. The thing shines intensely, and she finally finds where the weak point is, rings the bell, and orders the zombie to attack the center. Xiao Zhang turns into a projectile of pure rage, piercing the centipede and making it rain blood everywhere. She ends the ritual with an execution order, cutting the monster into 1,000 pieces in the blink of an eye. And in the blink of an eye, finally the beast is finished and the zombie king can rest. The exorcist is completely exhausted, and her body just shuts down, luckily. The zombie king is there to catch his beloved before she falls. Meanwhile, rumors spread quickly among the flying monsters, who are already planning to summon the so-called ancestor to finish everyone off. She crosses a portal that takes her directly to the Valley of Immortal Refinement, and the two boys appear in a panic seeing that the cat girl's aura is at 0. She spent more life than she had just to face that beast alone. And since the director is on a spiritual retreat, it was up to the support to hold the fort. The boy immediately activates the healing spell and says that getting her as good as new will be easy, and uses that legendary flower to heal the cat girl. And the visual effect is so intense that it looks like she is receiving a legendary skin upgrade. She floats in the air completely renewed and gets up feeling like she had 10 liters of coffee. And the boy explains that the flower has restored all her vitality to the maximum level. But the atmosphere gets tense because they have discovered their hideout, and the other little one panics because the master hasn't finished training yet. The cat girl gives that smile of someone who already knows how to solve the problem by force. Cut to this girl in a school uniform carrying a magic circle, and from inside it, a marmot with glasses comes out of the portal, and our redhead guy has no idea what to think of this cross between magic and hamster. He tries to sneak away silently in spirit form with the loot in his hand. But he is so unlucky that he drops a crystal and gives away his position. Malin realizes there is someone nearby, and our guy already feels the game slipping through his fingers. She prepares a star explosion special that shines brighter than the sun, and launches the blow to erase the poor boy from the server. He appears drenched in sweat, shouting that he is on her side before receiving another blow 10 minutes later. Things finally calm down when he explains the misunderstanding. She realizes the figure was just a decoy, and our guy confirms that that is his skill. Malin accepts the excuse and tells the guy to get lost with what he has already taken, but warns him that if he tells anything about the encounter, she will delete him in real life. Our guy is no fool and gets out of there with the loot before she changes her mind. The marmot gets pissed and asks why she let the little thief take the items for free. But the cat girl is on a totally different vibe and starts launching a crazy ritual with the remaining crystals. The power is so overwhelming that everything starts to spin in a wild vortex, and she gives the order for the upgrade to begin. The images look like an anime opening with everything shining so brightly. She finishes the transformation, ready to face any boss that appears on the map alone. The marmot is stunned to see that the master just leveled up again. He complains that the crystal reserves have run out with that upgrade, and she is already planning the next raid directly into the demon realm. The goal now is to clear the map of the plagues causing trouble, and she opens the portal to get out of there. Immediately, the redhead can only watch from the side, trying to process all that information, and decides to follow her own path to the Valley of Immortal Refinement. Out of nowhere, the scene changes to our guy opening his eyes and being greeted with a welcome worthy of an isekai protagonist. Our protagonist's harem appears in full force, celebrating that the master has finally awakened. He is completely baffled, trying to understand what this group wants from him. The girl with the bracelet appears out of nowhere to say that she is also in the lobby, and the exorcist steps forward, warning that their hideout is finished. She explains that the confrontation with the so-called ancestor Budung is inevitable, and shows the rare items they drop to help with the upgrade. The plan now is to subject our guy to intense training so he can level up in record time. Linyi starts crafting an essence pill with the loot, and after finishing, hands him the legendary item that triples farm speed. The protagonist crunches the numbers and realizes that, with all the accumulated upgrades, the XP gain is going to be insane. Then she takes the item and shoves it down the protagonist's throat and warns him that time is running out. So the boy has to suck it up. The cultivation begins, and the atmosphere in his spiritual space starts to boil, while the artist takes the opportunity to raise the level of the plot with the wafers floating around him. The heat is insane, and the girls can feel that he is about to explode, until the protagonist breaks the limit. Upgrade completed successfully out of nowhere. A colossal sword appears along with its golden core. The protagonist realizes that he is now at a completely different power level. But then a golden entity appears, saying that his disciples have finally served some purpose. The protagonist recognizes the guy as the former master of the Heaven and Earth sect, and gets very excited, thinking that the guy is still active on the server, but the spirit tells him the truth. He died a long time ago, and the only thing left is a soul fragment stored in the bracelet. He looks at our guy with that smile of someone about to pass the torch to the next one, and says that the boy's progress has exceeded all expectations. The master decides it's time to teach our protagonist some secret techniques, and starts transferring the forbidden files directly into his mind. The light is so intense that it feels like the monitor is about to melt. Our guy opens his eyes in the real world, with that heterochromia look that all anime protagonists love so much, and feels his body overflowing with energy after having finally formed the nascent soul. He, Wafu Squad, celebrates that his energy has also recovered to the maximum, but Lin Jai warns that the ancestor Budung is still an impossible level boss. Our guy flashes that smile of someone hiding his true strength. Cut to the bone dungeon in the other world, where Malink appears with the mystical marmot. Ready for battle, the pet warns that the skeleton legion is about to respawn. She says it's not the right time yet, and then a flashback appears, showing that the girl had already awakened her magic. At 5 years old, she went into this strange world alone, and spent a decade fighting monsters solo just to find her mother. Her mother was also a tough mage who disappeared through a portal, and our girl swore she wouldn't die until she found her again. But the danger doubles with each floor, and the respawning begins. There are so many skeletons around that the siege becomes impossible to hold. Malin flashes that little smile as if she had already set the trap, and dodges a heavy blow that almost sent the marmot to the lobby. She floats above the chaos, looking for the king of this disaster, and decides to end the clown show with a lightning chain, which turns into a collective bone barbecue. She realizes that the boss only appears after all the monsters have been eliminated. But it still doesn't appear. Out of nowhere, the bones glow green again, and the Legion returns to the server with a crazy speed boost. The problem is that they now have resistance to lightning, and the fight gets complicated. So now it's time to test the unbalanced skills she unlocked in her last level up. The girl invokes the power of the ice goddess, and makes it clear that that pile of bones won't get anywhere near her. She unleashes the special ice age to freeze the entire map, and turns the army into popsicles. The bone popsicles fall from the sky and turn into rubble on the ground. The marmot immediately takes the opportunity to collect all the loot that is dropping in duplicate. Moseo Bay is intrigued by these crystals and begins to suspect the protagonist. She feels that the boy is hiding some secret about how he gets so much loot, but the celebration doesn't last long, because the negative energy increases again. The bones didn't stay in the lobby. They are gathering to form something much worse. The floor boss finally appears, and the size of this thing is ridiculous. Let me introduce you to the Skeleton Lord, the nightmare of any low-level player. The monster enters by throwing a heavy blow, trying to finish off our girl, but she conjures a golden barrier and withstands the blow with ease. But then her defense starts to crack, and the impact throws the poor girl into the air as if she weighed nothing. She manages to recover in the air, and immediately focuses on her next move so she doesn't get hit directly. The girl throws her entire arsenal of skills at the monster, without any success. The problem is that the boss is immune to magic damage, but she doesn't even flinch. She decides to use the souls of the bosses she has faced solo in the past, and summons the whole team to turn the battle around. Molin summons the whole team to finish off the boss, and the summoned squad springs into action. Driven by purest rage, the armored ogre lands a devastating blow right in the skeleton's chest, while the Flower Queen immobilizes the creature with vines. It's a true infinite combo, but the summons have a time limit, and our girl needs a final blow, so she looks at the marmot with other intentions. She activates a new pet upgrade skill, unleashing a colossal fire aura that envelops the small rodent, and the creature becomes the new nightmare of the map. The small rodent transforms into the gigantic shadow spirit bear, and Moling orders it to shine and destroy everything, while the other summons immobilize the skeleton, leaving the boss completely vulnerable and defenseless. The creature stands there, expecting the worst. Our pet launches a savage charge directly at the target and makes the monster's body jump into 1,000 pieces. The guy turns into a pile of rubble on the floor, and the bear lets out a roar of victory. But out of nowhere, a skull wrapped in green flames appears floating, and Mooling realizes that the bastard still isn't dead. Mooling warns immediately that, as long as the head remains intact, that thing will keep returning to the lobby forever. Out of nowhere, the skull starts glowing and fires lightning that throws the bear into the air to the sides. The problem is that the boss is absorbing the other summons to rebuild its body, using the power of its own team. The biggest scam in history. Now the guy is gigantic and is powered up with everyone's power. Xiaodu gets enraged at this trap, but she tells him to use a potion and keep the monster at bay for a minute. Cao Tu realizes that his master is about to use that flawed technique and tells her to relax because he'll handle this. He drinks the power-up potion in one gulp, and the beast's physique explodes. The bear rams into the fused boss and starts throwing punches like there's no tomorrow. While the pet holds back the impossible Mosia, the ritual for an ancestral spell begins. She concentrates all her energy on the crystal and summons the Valkyrie, an entity that will finish off the boss before her body collapses. She only has 10 seconds to land the killing blow and launches the final attack. While the bear tanks, our bear is holding back the boss, but opens his eyes wide because he is running out of energy. Everything resets, and the pet turns back into a marmot. Our girl is left exposed in the air, but she gathers her courage and launches the slash anyway. The skeleton tries not to be eliminated, and the clash of powers makes everything tremble. But the skull is saved by a hair. Our girl is in shock because the boss has managed to dodge the final blow. But out of nowhere, a blue blur crosses the scene, and it just shredded the remains of the skeletons trying to recompose themselves. Mooling is baffled trying to understand how that clone ended up there, and our guy keeps appearing, asking her if she is okay, but gets slapped, while our mage insults him in every possible way in the middle of that sea of loot. Far from there, the real protagonist realizes that things have really gone wrong. His plan was simply to leave a clone behind to investigate the crystal drop, but the clone needed physical contact to break through Malink's barrier. The redhead is dying of embarrassment because his clone helped Mao Xiao by touching where he shouldn't have, and now he thinks they're going to brand him a total pervert. Meanwhile, the samsara tree is growing at a ridiculous rate, and our guy stands there staring at how huge it is becoming. Li Yuli approaches to give her report, explains that the tree is still just a small sprout, and that the other apprentices have spent almost all the spiritual stones to refine the pills. The energy supply is at the limit. The problem is that the next boss at the Gate of Ascension is still too strong. But Li Yuli promises she will do everything possible to protect her master. Then the redhead bursts in, behaving like a lunatic, and interrupts the conversation, while Li Yuli asks what brilliant idea that lunatic has come up with. This time, she asks if the master has any more of those immortality pills he gave her before. Our guy has no idea what she's talking about, until he realizes that the lunatic has swallowed a grenade. Thinking it was a supplement, she even forms a little heart with her hands, saying the energy rush was intense. The protagonist completely collapses when he realizes she has eaten nuclear ammunition. But then he realizes that nuclear energy is the equivalent of mana in this world, and remembers that in the desert where he lived, this junk was everywhere. The tree is surrounded by grenades, and our guy can't believe that this pile of junk is actually going to be useful. The redhead is already excited, concentrating the pure essence of fire in her hands, and blows it up. The impact is insane, and the nuclear energy starts to fuel the plant. Far away, a Ying sits on his throne, listening to the complaints of those strange servants. The creatures tremble from head to toe, while trying to explain that the protagonist had helped. But the Lord of Shadows doesn't want to hear excuses from losers. He raises his skeletal hand and prepares to eliminate those useless NPCs. The poor guys get shot before they can even finish the sentence. Wei Jing is fed up with the incompetence and calls his servants trash while giving shape to a new creature from that purple slime. A sinister avatar appears, ready for battle, and the villain announces that now he will enter the raid himself. Change of scene, we see some strange incubation tanks, where Dr. Su is kept alive by a life support system. Out of nowhere, the guy opens his eyes and realizes that his respawn has worked. A silhouette appears saying that he has been waiting a long time for the doctor to wake up. But things go wrong by the tree, when a dark fog envelops everything and leaves our guy in shock. Our guy is completely stunned by what he has found. In front of him appeared a strange replica of that nuclear tree, and those brain-shaped fruits start to vibrate. One of them explodes, and the girls can't even react when a blur flies by at an absurd speed. But the protagonist was already focused and throws an energy lasso to catch the fugitive, revealing this wooden creature with a nasty look on its face, which our guy grabs to see if this loot is actually worth it. Leo examines the loot and says that this can't even be called a treasure. To her, it's a tree spirit, but it has a very strange vibe. Legend has it that these fruits take centuries to mature and usually produce a rare pill, or the offspring of a legendary beast. But once every 100 years, one of these spirits is born, and they are usually geniuses. They take human form and can grow without limits, but the one our guy has captured doesn't seem to be the smartest creature in the world. The redhead thinks that the excess nuclear energy made the poor thing come out glitchy, so she calls little Baku to try to establish contact, and the boy appears immediately, activating his ability to talk to the plant. The boy is stunned by what he sees. That ugly creature was nothing more than a disguise to scare away the curious, and now she reveals her true form, which is a small light fairy. Baku explains that this is an extremely rare species that changes appearance as it grows. Meanwhile, in the scavenger lab, crystals fly everywhere after a punch. The guards come running in, calling for reinforcements because the mutant brain has disappeared. They search everywhere and find nothing. Out of nowhere, a branch pierces a soldier's chest, and a real massacre begins with roots sprouting from the ground and impaling everyone. The laboratory turns into a slaughterhouse in a matter of seconds. The missing brain actually gave birth to this horrible thing, and Dr. Wu tells the redhead that the nuclear tree fruit has finally hatched. The lunatic is completely stunned, and when he looks up, he finds himself face to face with the new nightmare of the laboratory. We return to the Hell Shaman in search of the protagonist. Someone tries their luck and throws a heavy sword at him, but the monster doesn't even move while the metal grazes him. He even mocks them by asking if that was their main plan, but ends up being cut in half before he can finish laughing. The creature starts regenerating immediately, and the bastard even splits in two. Just to complicate the raid further, our guy is stunned to see that the cut didn't do anything, but Li Yuli explains that that thing is just a puppet clone, not the real boss. She unsheathes her sword and says she's going to cut that thing into pieces until there's nothing left. The exorcist calls Cao Haiyan for the attack, and the little zombie lunges at full speed, piercing the clone with a slash, but the monster gets tired of playing punching bag and orders them to focus on the girl, unleashing a rain of spikes in all directions, which turns the poor girl into a human pincushion. The clone takes the opportunity and attacks Ohian without mercy. With a true boss attitude, our little zombie ends up lying on the ground. Our guy sees that the ancestral Budong is a tough nut to crack and decides to use the technique the sect master taught him. He launches a rain of golden swords that descend upon the clones. The creatures melt into the purple puddle, but then the substance starts to bubble. The villain says that those attacks only serve to strengthen him and creates an infinite army. The guy calls the boy a thief and claims victory, but the protagonist asks him if he really thinks he has become stronger. The boy flashes that smile of someone who had already foreseen the enemy's move, and reveals that the girls were just illusions to lure the villain into a trap. Buten is completely hallucinating. The guy can feel his mana running out. They are trapped inside the protagonist's refining cauldron, and he explains that, if the main body doesn't die, then the only option is to cook the bastard until he turns into pure essence. Firecrow intervenes to turn up the heat, and immediately prepares the forbidden seal, summoning sacred fire to fry the villain. The villain keeps laughing, swearing that normal fire can't do anything to him. But then he realizes it is real sacred fire, and panic takes hold of him. Far from there, the doctor tries to figure out who the lunatic with the galaxy face in front of him is. The space villain says the doctor has too much talent to die, and that he has saved his life because he needs a favor. The doctor sees himself as a patched-up mess, but the stranger points to the tank next to him and shows him the woman he loved. Dr. Sue is completely stunned because he remembered that she had died a long time ago. The villain gets straight to the point. If he helps him, he will give him back the woman and cure his body. The doctor bites the hook immediately and asks what the plan is. The man's plan is simple. He wants the doctor to figure out a way to copy human abilities. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a hand goes through the wall in a strange way. It's Malin using the shadow step technique to sneak into the room without being invited. She says she has finally found that so-called Lee Junsin, who is there snoring, completely oblivious to the danger. The story begins as post-apocalyptic madness full of monsters, deception, and survival, but very quickly it becomes something much bigger, a mix of isekai, cultivation, and science fiction. The protagonist doesn't just survive. He literally breaks the system, traveling between worlds while he sleeps. He uses nuclear energy as if it were mana, and gradually builds his own army. In Power, what makes it interesting? First, the pacing. Something is happening all the time. New skills, new enemies. Constant twists. Second, the idea of combining the post-apocalypse with cultivation feels fresh. And most importantly, the protagonist is not the typical weakling who takes a long time to become strong. But he quickly becomes a dangerous player, but he also has his weak points. Sometimes the story is too loaded with events. Everything goes so fast that there isn't always time to feel the weight of the moments. Some characters feel more like background than important figures, and at certain moments, the logic of the world adapts too conveniently to the protagonist. The atmosphere is pure chaos, power, and a constant feeling that what comes next will be even more brutal. It's a dangerous world, and that's precisely what hooks you. And now the question for you: would you use a power like that if you knew you had to risk everything? A like and a subscription from you, and many more stories from me.